The chandeliers dripped gold and crystal light, casting delicate reflections across the glass walls of the Imperial Hotel ballroom. Every table gleamed with silver, orchids, and champagne. The air was soft with violin music and wealth, the kind of night people photographed for magazines, not memories. Li Wen Chen smiled, poised in her champagne silk gown as if she belonged to that world. The cameras loved her, graceful, elegant, and utterly in love. Tonight marked her second wedding anniversary to Adrian Wu, the billionaire everyone whispered about but no one really knew. He sat beside her now, handsome in his tailored suit, whispering something to a business partner across the table. His hand brushed hers absently, as though out of habit. It looked intimate enough for the cameras, but to Evelyn it felt cold. Still, she smiled. That's what she was good at, pretending everything was fine. "Mrs. Wu, a few words for the press?" a reporter asked, stepping closer. Evelyn's smile didn't falter. "Every day with my husband is a blessing," she said smoothly. "Tonight, we celebrate love, trust, and new beginnings." Applause rippled politely across the room. Adrian raised his glass to her, a practiced smirk on his lips. To the world, they looked perfect. To Evelyn, they looked trapped. As she lifted her champagne flute, her gaze caught the reflection of the grand doors in the mirror opposite her, and then the room fell silent. A woman stood in the doorway, dripping rainwater, wearing white, not the soft, elegant white of celebration, but the torn, desperate white of a wedding dress. Her hair clung to her face. Her eyes, wild, red, furious, locked on Adrian. The whispers started before Evelyn could breathe. Then the woman spoke, her voice shaking the glittering stillness. "Why are you celebrating our anniversary with her?" The orchestra stuttered to a stop. Every head turned. Every flashbulb froze. Evelyn blinked, unsure she'd heard right. "I'm sorry, what did you just say?" The woman took a trembling step forward, her voice rising. "He's my husband," she screamed. "Adrian Wu is my husband." Gasps broke like thunder. Cameras snapped. Reporters surged. Evelyn's champagne slipped from her hand and shattered against the marble floor. Adrian's face drained of color. "Lena, don't." "Don't what?" she spat. "Tell the truth." Security rushed in, but it was too late. The headlines were already being written. The billionaire's double life. The mistress in a wedding dress. The perfect wife humiliated on camera. Evelyn stood frozen, her world tilting. Her breath came shallow as she turned to Adrian, searching his face for denial, for some kind of reason. But he said nothing. Nothing at all. Lena's sobs echoed through the ballroom. "He said you were just a contract. That you knew." Evelyn's knees nearly gave out. "A contract," she whispered. Adrian reached for her, voice low, urgent. "Evelyn, listen to me." She stepped back, shaking her head. "Don't touch me." Cameras flashed like lightning. She could hear her heartbeat in her ears. Everything she'd built, her image, her love, her trust, was crumbling in public view. And somewhere, deep inside, something cold and sharp clicked into place. This wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of his destruction. By morning, the world had already picked a side, and it wasn't hers. Evelyn's face was everywhere. #The Mistress Walked In was trending in every major city. News anchors dissected her heartbreak like entertainment, showing replays of the exact moment she dropped her champagne glass, eyes wide, world shattered. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Her PR manager was crying. And Adrian's empire was bleeding. She sat on the floor of her penthouse, still in last night's ruined gown, staring at the TV. The same clip played again, Lena's furious voice echoing through the ballroom. "He said, you were just a contract. That you knew." Every word was a knife twisting deeper. The door opened and Adrian walked in, no longer the perfect billionaire. His tie was gone, his hair disheveled, his jaw shadowed with exhaustion. "Evelyn," he started quietly, "you shouldn't be watching that." She didn't even look at him. "Tell me it's not true." He hesitated, too long. "Tell me," she snapped, standing, trembling but fierce. "Tell me that woman didn't just call you her husband on live television." Adrian closed his eyes briefly. It's complicated. Complicated? Evelyn laughed bitterly. You married me while you already had a wife. How much more complicated can it get?
His voice hardened.
It's not what you think. Then explain it, she shouted, tears finally breaking through her composure. Because the entire world thinks I'm your mistress. They think I stole you from her. They think I'm the homewrecker. Adrian's jaw clenched. Lena and I were married years ago. It was arranged. She left. We were separated legally, emotionally, everything. I never thought she'd come back. Evelyn's voice dropped to a whisper. So, you are still married? Silence. That silence was her answer. She laughed again, broken. You destroyed me, Adrian. I was going to fix it, he said, taking a step closer. I just needed time. You are the only person who ever made me feel human again, Evelyn. I didn't want to lose that. She stared at him like he was a stranger. Then you shouldn't have built it on lies. The sound of paparazzi outside grew louder, cameras flashing even through the glass balcony doors. He walked toward her, desperate. Don't let them see you cry. Please. You're stronger than this. Her voice steadied, quiet but lethal. You don't get to talk to me about strength. He tried to touch her, but she pulled away. Don't. You've touched too many lies already. She turned away, heading for the bedroom. I'm filing for annulment. Whatever we had, it's over. Adrian's voice dropped to something raw. And if I tell you it wasn't real at first, but it became real? She froze for half a heartbeat. Then her chin lifted. Then that's your punishment. Because you finally fell for someone who'll never believe another word you say. That night, Evelyn moved out of the penthouse. That night, Lena gave an emotional TV interview, clutching her wedding ring for the cameras. That night, Evelyn began receiving anonymous messages. Old photos, documents, timelines that didn't add up. Someone was trying to tell her something. And if Adrian wasn't the only liar in her life, she was going to find out who else wanted her destroyed. Rain tapped against the glass of Evelyn's new apartment, a modest, quiet place tucked away from flashing cameras and the whispers of luxury. The world had turned her heartbreak into headlines, and she needed silence to breathe again. Except silence had its own sound. The sound of questions she couldn't answer. The sound of truth scratching to be heard. Her phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message. Check the date of his first marriage. It's not what you think. Attached was a photo, a marriage certificate. Evelyn frowned, zooming in. The date was 2 years before she ever met Adrian, but the signature looked recent. Her pulse raced. Why would someone forge this? Before she could think further, there was a knock at the door. She tensed, heart in her throat. When she opened it, Adrian stood there, soaked from the rain, unshaven, tired, and holding a small velvet box. Evelyn, please. Just 5 minutes. She almost slammed the door. But part of her, the foolish, aching part, still needed answers. You have 2, she said sharply. He stepped in, dripping rain onto her floor. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. Lena's returned. She's not who you think she is. I don't care who she is. You lied. Yes, but not about everything, he said, voice breaking. Lena's marriage to me, it wasn't real. It was a cover. Evelyn blinked. A cover? For what? Adrian hesitated, glancing toward the window, as if checking for watchers. My father's business partners, people I can't even name, wanted me tied to Lena's family. It was strategic, political. But when Lena's father was arrested for fraud, the alliance collapsed. She disappeared with documents that could destroy everything my company built. Evelyn's voice softened slightly despite herself. So you used her, and then me? His jaw tightened. You weren't part of that. You were the first thing in my life that wasn't business. Her eyes filled, but her anger held. And yet, the world thinks I'm the mistress. He sighed, taking a small step forward. Let me fix this. Please. She shook her head. You can't fix the truth. But before either could say more, her phone buzzed again. A new message. This time, a video. Evelyn pressed play and froze. The footage showed Lena in a dimly lit room, speaking to someone behind the camera. I told you he'd fall apart once the media turned. She's just collateral. We'll get the shares soon. Adrian's face went white. That's her voice. Evelyn stared at him, realization dawning like a storm. She planned it. All of it. The entrance. The press. The lies. Adrian's hand ran through his hair, voice shaking. She's not just after revenge. She wants control. The next message came seconds later. You don't know what you've gotten into, Evelyn. Stay away from him, or you'll end up like Lena's sister. Her stomach twisted. Who sent this? Adrian's phone buzzed at the same time. He looked at her, grim. Someone who knows too much. For a moment, they just stood there, thunder rolling outside, the sound of something dark rising between them again. Evelyn took a deep breath. You said you want to fix this? Then start by telling me everything. Every name, every lie, every secret. He nodded slowly, eyes meeting hers with a quiet fire. If I do, you'll never see me the same way again. Her voice steadied. Maybe I already don't. But that night, as Evelyn replayed the video and the messages, something strange stirred inside her. A mix of fear and reluctant trust. Because if Lena was capable of staging her own betrayal, then the woman who walked in wearing a wedding dress wasn't just the mistress. She was the enemy. For the first time in weeks, Evelyn and Adrian sat in the same room without shouting. The rain outside hadn't stopped, a storm thrashing against the windows like the chaos inside their hearts. Evelyn sat across from him, her laptop open, files scattered on the coffee table. Adrian's voice was low, steady, too calm for a man whose entire life was unraveling. She's been using shell companies, he said, scrolling through documents on his tablet. Every time she moves money, it vanishes through offshore accounts. Lena's smarter than we thought. Evelyn exhaled, rubbing her temples. So this wasn't about love. It was about money, power, and revenge. Adrian nodded. And reputation. She's been building something, maybe with help. Evelyn's eyes flicked to him. Help from who? He hesitated. My father's old rival. The same man who tried to take control of the Wu Corporation 5 years ago. Lena's working with him. She planned the wedding stunt to destroy my credibility publicly so he could move in quietly. Evelyn stared at the photo on the screen. Lena, smiling beside a faceless man in a gray suit. Who is he? Adrian's silence said enough. She leaned back. You knew. I suspected, he admitted. But I couldn't prove it. And when you walked out that night, I didn't care about the business anymore. I just wanted you to come back. The confession hit her like a weight. Unwanted, but real. Evelyn swallowed. You're only saying that because you need my help. His gaze softened. No. I'm saying that because it's true. Silence hung between them again. Not the cold kind, the heavy kind, the one filled with unspoken things. She wanted to hate him, to push him away, but her pulse betrayed her. Fine, she said finally. We work together. But after this, after she's exposed, we're done. He nodded. Agreed. They worked side by side late into the night, tracing money trails, piecing together Lena's plan. At one point, Evelyn fell asleep on the couch, exhaustion pulling her under. Adrian watched her quietly, the way her hair fell across her face, the steady rhythm of her breathing. He reached out instinctively, brushing a strand away, then froze, guilt flashing across his eyes. He didn't deserve to touch her, but he wanted to. When Evelyn stirred and opened her eyes, their gazes locked. The air between them changed, soft, charged, dangerous. She sat up slowly. You should go. He didn't move. You don't mean that. Her voice trembled despite her words. I do. Then tell me to leave, he said quietly, stepping closer. But she couldn't. Not when his breath was so close. Not when every part of her remembered the way it felt to be held by him, before the lies, before the cameras, before the world fell apart. She didn't stop him when his lips found hers, hesitant at first, then deeper, desperate, aching. It wasn't a kiss of love. It was survival. Pain. Memory. When she finally pulled away, her chest was heaving. This doesn't fix anything. I know, he whispered, but it reminds me what I'm fighting for. The next morning, Evelyn's phone buzzed again. A new anonymous message. You're getting close. Lena knows. Be careful who you trust. Her stomach twisted. She knows we're working together. Adrian's expression hardened. Then it's time to end this. 2 nights later, they walked into the gala. The same ballroom where everything had started. The same chandeliers. The same flashing cameras. Only this time, Evelyn wasn't the broken wife. She was the storm. Lena was already there, radiant in black silk, smiling like sin itself. Evelyn, she purred. How brave of you to show your face. Evelyn smiled coldly. I could say the same. Lena's smirk faltered when Evelyn held up a small drive. Do you recognize this? It's your voice. Confessing everything. The reporters turned. Cameras lifted. Lena's smile cracked. You wouldn't dare. Evelyn stepped closer, her voice steady, lethal. You walked in on my life once. Tonight, I'm walking in on yours. Adrian took her hand, not for show, but solidarity. You should run, Lena. The police are already waiting. Lena's eyes widened just as flashing red and blue lights cut through the ballroom glass. She turned to flee, but officers closed in. Her screams echoed as they dragged her out, shouting about lies and vengeance. Evelyn watched silently, her grip tightening around Adrian's hand. It was over. Almost. Later, outside beneath the rain, Adrian turned to her. You didn't have to do this. You could have let me fall alone. Evelyn looked up at him, the city lights reflecting in her wet lashes. You hurt me, but she tried to destroy both of us. I wasn't going to let her win. He stepped closer. And us. She hesitated. There is no us. He smiled faintly. Then why are you still holding my hand? She looked down, her fingers tangled in his. Her pulse, betraying her. For the first time, she didn't pull away. Maybe forgiveness wasn't immediate. Maybe love wasn't simple. But as the rain fell around them, Evelyn realized the truth. When the mistress walked in, her fairy tale ended. But when the truth walked out, something real began. The city had stopped talking. For weeks, every headline, every whisper, every scandalous replay of that disastrous anniversary had dominated the media. But now, in the quiet of a new season, it all felt distant, like a storm that had passed, leaving a strange, heavy calm in its wake. Evelyn stood on the balcony of her new apartment, high above the sparkling skyline, the wind lifting her hair and brushing against her cheeks. She had rebuilt her life piece by piece, her reputation, her company, her heart. She had survived the betrayal, the cameras, the public humiliation. And yet, there was one thing she hadn't rebuilt: the walls around her feelings for Adrian. He had changed too. The man who had once hidden behind power and contracts had revealed something human in the storm: vulnerability, remorse, and a raw, unfiltered love that refused to be denied. They hadn't rushed into forgiveness. They hadn't pretended that the lies and betrayals didn't exist. But slowly, cautiously, they had begun to trust again. And tonight he was coming to see her. The knock on the door made her heart lurch. She opened it to find Adrian, dressed simply in black, holding a single white rose, modest, deliberate, intimate. No cameras. No press. Just him. I wasn't sure you'd answer, he said softly. Evelyn smiled, the kind of small, quiet smile that comes after storms. I wasn't sure you'd show up. He stepped closer, the distance between them charged with memories, of stolen glances, of arguments that had left them both raw, of the kiss that had reminded them of what they truly meant to each other. I had to, he said, voice low. After everything, I couldn't stay away. She reached for his hand, and for the first time in months, there were no walls, no pretenses. Just the warmth of him, the familiar rhythm of his pulse under her fingertips. I've been thinking about us, he murmured, brushing a strand of hair from her face. About what we could have if we stopped pretending the past defines us. Her lips trembled, but she didn't pull away. Do you mean that? I do. He smiled, small, almost shy. I've loved you through the lies, Evelyn. I've loved you through the scandal, the cameras, the world's judgment. And I'll keep loving you through whatever comes next. Tears pricked her eyes, not of sadness, but of relief, of recognition, of hope. She pressed her forehead to his. I've been so scared that trusting again would hurt too much. You're stronger than you think, he whispered. And I'm not going anywhere. For the first time, Evelyn didn't doubt him. She leaned in, their lips meeting in a gentle, lingering kiss, one that held apologies, forgiveness, and unspoken promises. The city sprawled beneath them, lights twinkling like stars, and in that moment, the chaos of the world faded away. Later, inside, they laughed softly over tea, the smallest, ordinary moments that had once seemed impossible. Adrian told her stories of his childhood, the pressures he'd hidden behind power, and Evelyn shared memories she'd never told anyone. Every word, every laugh, every shared silence knit them closer together. And as midnight approached, he took her hands in his, looking at her with a seriousness that made her breath catch. Evelyn, he said, voice steady, unwavering, I don't care about contracts, lies, or scandals anymore. I only care about us. If you'll have me, I want you, officially, completely, and forever. Evelyn's heart surged. She had loved him through the storms, through the betrayals, through every public humiliation. And now, she realized, she didn't just love him. She trusted him with everything. Yes, she whispered, voice breaking with emotion. Yes, Adrian, forever. He smiled, and in that smile was a lifetime of redemption, forgiveness, and passion. He pulled her close, and together, they watched the first light of dawn creep across the skyline, warm, golden, and full of new beginnings. The cameras, the lies, the mistress, they all belonged to the past now. What mattered was what they were building together, a love stronger than secrets, braver than scandal, and brighter than any headline. And as the city woke beneath them, Evelyn realized that sometimes the most beautiful storms leave the clearest skies.